The last time something truly frightened you, heart-pounding, skin gone cold, some part of you was enjoying it. You know the feeling, the horror film you watched through your fingers but didn't turn off, the drop at the top of the roller coaster, the true story so grim you kept reading, you went looking for that. Nobody made you. Your ancestors felt the exact same pull, and they took it somewhere you never would. They danced until their bodies gave out and their minds broke open. They scarred themselves on purpose and called it a celebration. They played games where people genuinely died and lined up to play anyway. The difference is that you press a button, and they had to build all of it with their own hands. And what they built to frighten each other, to hurt each other, to thrill each other, was so much darker than anything on your screen, because for them, the danger wasn't pretend. There was no off switch. The fun and the threat were made of the same thing. Here's what you picture when you imagine prehistoric fun. Probably nothing. A grunt, a rock, people too busy starving to laugh. The idea that fun is a modern luxury, invented once we had spare time and soft furniture. That picture is completely wrong. Ancient humans had rich, deliberate, wildly inventive fun, and almost all of it would disturb you. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about play. Fun was never invented to feel good. Fun is a trick your brain plays to make you rehearse the things that can kill you, and the people who rehearse the hardest, laughing the whole way, are the ones who survive to become you. So the real question isn't what ancient humans did for fun, it's why their fun was so dark, and why yours, underneath the screens and the safety rails, is exactly the same. And near the end, we reach the one they played that should horrify you, except you've played a version of it yourself. Hold on to that. Start where all of it started, in the dark. Picture the night before fire changed everything, and then the night after. Because fire didn't just cook food. It bought back the hours after sunset, hours that used to belong to whatever hunted in the black. And the very first thing humans seem to have done with those hours is frighten each other on purpose. Around that fire, someone told a story, not a gentle one. Anthropologists who study the oldest surviving oral traditions find the same thing everywhere. They are full of monsters, of things in the dark, of people who wandered off and were never seen again. The first entertainment humans ever created was horror. We invented the ghost story before we invented the wheel. And it makes a terrible kind of sense. Out there, past the light, there really were things that ate people. Big cats that hunted at night. Shapes in the dark that did not always turn out to be shapes. So picture it. The fire is the only light for miles, and it moves, so every face keeps changing. Beyond the last of the glow, the dark is total, and someone leans in and starts describing the thing that lives out there, and 30 people who have known each other their whole lives go quiet and cold and delighted all at once. Children press closer to their parents. Someone laughs, too loud to break the tension, and nobody leaves the circle. A story that made your heart race in the safety of the fire was a rehearsal, a way to feel the fear, learn its shape, and practice not falling apart. You were training your terror while you were still safe enough to survive the lesson. That instinct never left you. It's why you paid to sit in a dark room and let a stranger frighten you last week. Same fire, same dark, same trick. But listening to a scary story is gentle compared to what they did with their bodies. Watch any group of children anywhere on earth, and within minutes they will start play fighting. Chasing, tackling, wrestling, shrieking. We treat it as noise. It is one of the most important things our species does. The biologist Gordon Burghardt, who spent a career studying play across the animal kingdom, points out that rough and tumble play is deadly serious underneath. It's practice. Every tackle is a rehearsal for a real fight. Every chase is a hunt with the stakes removed. Children who play fight are quietly building the reflexes that one day keep them alive. And for ancient children, the line between the game and the real thing was razor thin. Their play was mock hunting, stalking, ambushing, throwing sharpened sticks at targets and at each other. A child who spent 1,000 afternoons pretending to kill was a child whose hands already knew how, long before the day it mattered. They killed imaginary prey all afternoon so that one day they could kill real prey and eat. The fun and the survival were the same activity, wearing two faces. Now hold that thought, because it's the key to everything. The fun felt like fun, but underneath it was always training for something that could kill you. Pleasure was the bait, survival was the hook. And adults never stopped playing, they just raised the stakes. In hunter-gatherer societies across the world, anthropologists keep finding the same astonishing ritual, people dancing until they collapse. Not dancing for an hour, dancing for a whole night. Feet bleeding, voices gone, bodies shaking, and still going hour after hour until the person you were at sunset is simply not there anymore. Dancers describe leaving their own bodies, seeing things that aren't in the room, entering a state that isn't sleep and isn't waking, and isn't quite sane. This wasn't a party, it was a controlled act of self-destruction, performed for the feeling on the other side of exhaustion. They drove their own bodies past the edge, deliberately, because past that edge was an experience they could not get any other way. If that sounds insane to you, ask yourself why people run marathons until they vomit, why anyone climbs a mountain that might kill them, why you have at least once pushed your body until it screamed and called it the best day of your life. You already understand this. You just don't do it around a fire until you hallucinate. If this is already changing what you thought fun was, subscribe, because we still haven't reached the darkest one, and it's the one you'll recognize in yourself. There was one more way they chased the edge of themselves. They got out of their own heads, fermented fruit, strange plants, smoke and brew, anything that could bend the world for a night. Across the ancient world, the biggest gatherings were built around exactly this, a whole group altering their minds together, on purpose, under the stars. And it was never really about the substance. It was about doing it together. 30 people leaving reality at the same time, trusting each other enough to come back. You cannot be that vulnerable alone in a dangerous world, so they did it as a group, and the doing it together was the entire point. Which brings us to the darkest tool of all. Because everything so far has flirted with fear, or exhaustion, or a bent mind, the next one went straight for the body. And here's where it stops being about thrill and starts being about pain. For a lot of ancient fun, the pain was the entire point. Across countless cultures, the great communal events, the ones everyone remembered, the ones that made you an adult, the ones that bound the group together, involved deliberately hurting the participants. Picture it plainly. A young person kneels in front of the whole group. Someone opens the skin of their back or chest in a deliberate pattern, a design that will scar and stay for life. No one is holding them down. They came forward on their own, and they do not cry out, because not crying out is the entire test. When it heals, they will wear that mark as the proudest thing they own. Other ordeals ran for days. Cold, hunger, exhaustion, isolation, everything designed to push a person to the exact limit of what a human body can take and hold them there. The anthropologist Harvey Whitehouse has spent decades studying these ordeals, and what he found is unsettling. The more agonizing the ritual, the tighter it bonds the people who survive it together. Shared suffering fuses a group into something closer than family. The pain wasn't a side effect of the ritual. The pain was the technology. If you have ever been through something brutal alongside other people, a punishing team, a disaster, a night that nearly broke you, and come out the far side loving those people with an intensity that makes no sense, you have felt exactly what those rituals were engineered to produce. And that is the part that stops being disturbing and becomes almost unbearably human. Strip away the pain and the fear and the danger, and what every one of these things was really for was the same: to not be alone, to stand at the edge of something terrible with other people, and come back holding on to each other. They frightened each other in the dark, so nobody had to be afraid by themselves. They hurt together so they would never have to hurt alone. In a world that could kill any one of them on any ordinary afternoon, the most valuable thing a human could build was a group that had already been to the edge together and chosen to stay. Somewhere 40,000 years ago, a person sat in the dark next to people they had suffered beside and felt, for a moment, completely safe. No walls, no weapons in reach, just other humans who had been through the worst of it and stayed. That feeling is the whole reason any of it existed, built on purpose, out of the very things that should have driven them apart. Because the ultimate ancient entertainment was flirting with death itself. Danger was fun. Real danger. Games where people could genuinely be hurt or killed. Tests of nerve, contests of endurance, feats performed at the edge of a drop or in the path of something large and angry. A misstep, a fall, a moment too slow, and the game didn't end. It just became real. Young people especially sought it out, doing dangerous things for no reward except the feeling and the standing it earned them, and some of them died doing it. That was understood. That was baked into the price. A game that couldn't hurt you wasn't worth playing, because a game that couldn't hurt you taught you nothing about the day something actually would. To us, that looks reckless, even suicidal. But look at what it did. The person who could stay calm at the edge of death in a game was the person who could stay calm at the edge of death in a hunt, or a raid, or a famine. And everyone was watching. That was half the point. To do something dangerous in front of the whole group and not flinch was to tell them, without a word, exactly what you were made of. The game was fun. It was also an audition nobody admitted was happening. Courage isn't a mood. It's a skill, and skills need practice, so they practiced dying over and over in games, so that when death actually came, their hands were steady. That is the disturbing truth underneath all of it. Ancient fun was rehearsal for the worst things that could happen to you. Fear, pain, exhaustion, danger. They turned every one of them into a game because the brain will happily practice anything if you disguise it as play. And your brain has not changed at all. Here is the part I told you to hold on to. There is a name for what you do. The psychologist Paul Rozin calls it benign masochism, deliberately seeking out an experience your body reads as a threat while some quiet part of you knows you're safe, and once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. You eat food that causes you physical pain and call it your favorite. You watch people be murdered on screen to relax. You pay money to be dropped from a height, locked in a room and frightened, thrown down a mountain strapped to a plank. You read about the worst things humans do to each other, at night, alone, for entertainment. You are doing exactly what they did around that fire. You are taking the things that should terrify a body, pain, fear, falling, death, and turning them into a game, because that is the oldest and deepest kind of fun there is. Not comfort, mastery, the joy of touching the thing that could kill you and walking away laughing. The screens changed, the rehearsal didn't. So think again about that ancient camp in the dark. The children mock killing each other in the grass, the dancers driving themselves past collapse, the scars earned on purpose, the games played at the edge of a lethal drop, the stories told to make the heart pound where it was safe to pound. It looks disturbing from the outside. It looks like people who didn't understand fun. They understood it better than you do. They knew what it was for. Fun was how a fragile animal in a lethal world practiced staying alive and taught its body not to panic at the exact moment panic would kill it. Every game was a small, safe taste of death, swallowed on purpose. And you are still swallowing it. Every time you choose to be afraid when nothing is chasing you, every time you seek out the pain, the height, the dark, the drop, and feel that strange bright thrill on the other side. That thrill is older than language. It's older than your species. It's the feeling of an animal rehearsing its own survival and calling it fun. The next time something frightens you and you find, underneath the fear, that some part of you is grinning, don't be ashamed of it. That's not a modern glitch. That's 300,000 years of ancestors who practiced death until they were good at it. And every single one of them survived long enough to teach it to you.